All right, guys, welcome to the last of the 21 Devil's Details. We've made it. This is cool that I have gotten through all of these, and I already have a lot of thoughts on what we'll cover going forward. I'll tease a little bit at that at the end of this one. But without further ado, Devil's Details 21, the beautiful programming. So, what attracted me to CrossFit when I originally started doing it in like 2006, 2007, it was very much in its infancy, was that it was hard. I liked it just because it was really hard. I started working out this way. It was kicking my ass, and I liked that, and so I liked that it was hard. And I think a lot of people back then were attracted to it for that reason, that it was hard. Then as CrossFit grew, as an entity, as a culture, as we got wiser, as we programmed, as I got wiser, still a little bit of a dumbass, but I was more of a dumbass back then. We realized that while hard is an essential element of CrossFit, it is not what makes this training methodology work. Hard is a factor, but it needs to be effective, and it needs to be the proper combination of movements. And if I can mention, going back to Devil's Details 7, which was the Goldilocks rule, where I talked about couplets and triplets, 2 to 3 movements combined in that time frame of like 7 to 16 minutes, that what makes CrossFit so effective year over year going forward through time is in the proper, beautifully formed combination of the right couple of movements with the right weights, with the right rep ranges, in the right time frame. It is not an overcomplicating it. It is not making it hard just for the sake of being hard. And I have had a tendency to do that. I think a lot of programmers have over time, is one, making it hard just because you want to make it hard, and I don't want my workouts to be wimpy workouts. And or, for me, over nerding and over complicating it when it doesn't need to be complicated to be effective. And so as I'm programming, I have to constantly, and this is a great time to do this because this is something I will have a very specific example of how I'm going to do this. I have to be my own devil's advocate. I have to be able to look at my workouts and why they're good, and then argue the other side of why they're not good, or why they're not as good as they could be, why they might need to change. And it's hard to do that. And I think, guys, in life, again, as I apply this to everything in life, being your own devil's advocate is the only way for you to be able to clearly and effectively think and learn about anything in your life. If this is what I think about raising a family, or this is what I think about finances, or if this is what I think about religion, whatever the case may be, until I can effectively argue the other side. So here's what I think, but here's the opposing argument to that, and not just like make up a silly version of that, but a legitimate argument to that, and then see if my stance stands up to that, I'm not really able to think like an adult. And I think this is really hard for all of us, hard for people, because we have what we think, and trying to present the other side honestly to ourselves without being biased is difficult. And so as I'm making workouts, I naturally get very attached to them. And I have a phrase for myself: don't get married to your workouts. And what do I mean by that? So I'm married to Janelle. There is a difference between being married and living with someone. And guys, we talk about, I've had friends, well, what's the difference? We're living together. Well, if there's no difference, just get married. Well, we know there is a difference. There is a lot more commitment in being married to someone. It becomes a lot harder to extricate yourself from that if it's not working. Being married to someone is being integrally involved with that. And being married to a workout means it would be very hard for me to separate from a workout. So, using my example, I have to just be living with these workouts. And if it turns out it's not working, I have to be able to kick that workout to the curb. Like, you're out. This is it. Move out. We're done. And it reminds me, there was a really good line. It was in Heat, the movie Heat. Robert De Niro's talking to Al Pacino. They're in the diner. It's a great scene. And Robert De Niro's saying to Al Pacino, in this way of life, you can't get too attached to anything that you can't walk out from in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. Badass line. Now, I don't think that actually is a good way to live life. I think that will end up being a very lonely existence. I think you should get attached to stuff that it would be very hard to walk out from in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. So, while cool line, I don't think that's a way to live life. I do think it's a great way for me to think of workouts as a programmer. I have to make these workouts and I spend a lot of time on them, and then I have to be willing, if I think it's not working, to just hit the delete button. Delete, you're gone. And I say that with the fact, preview guys, next week is our third Deload week. And I've been working on this week for a while. I've had the workouts there for quite some time, and I have to say this to myself consciously, I haven't been satisfied with it. And I told you when we first started the Deload, and I said this was something that would evolve. It is evolving. And I'm thinking of calling it maybe Skill Week or Technique Week or Nerd Week. You can maybe let me know, comments, or tell me at the gym if you like one of those titles for this week. And that gets me a little more excited, frankly, for myself personally, than Deload Week. Because we can all work on form on everything and get better at it. And I think using the Deload Week as a week to really focus on the skill and the technique, not just in getting stronger and going faster, is a good way to dial back the intensity and have a lot of benefit coming out of this week each time. So I think from a programming standpoint, that's more how I'm going to think of it. And with that in mind, it requires me changing. So if you guys have been looking ahead to next week, which I'm glad if you do, get ready for next week to substantially change. It's not totally all changing, but there's going to be very noticeable changes to next week. So I'll be doing that later today and into tomorrow. So let me give you a couple examples of what I think of as beautiful, effective workouts. And to do this, CrossFit, another name for CrossFit could be mixed modal training. There was a guy, James Fitzgerald, he won the games in 2007, CrossFit Games. And then he started his own thing. He called it OPT, and now he calls it OPEX training. I don't think OPEX stands for operating. I know there's just operating, I don't know. There's other phrases for it. I don't know what it stands for. Anyways. But he calls his training mixed modal training, and that is CrossFit. There's 3 modalities we use. There's monostructural, which is the cardio stuff. Running, rowing, biking, jump rope, that kind of stuff. That's M. There's W, weightlifting. Weightlift is any external object. Kettlebell, wall ball, barbell, dumbbell, all that is weightlifting. And then there's gymnastics. Sit-ups, muscle-ups, air squats, handstand push-ups, all of that fits in the gymnastic category. So when we do mixed modal training, we combine these 3 modalities. And last Saturday was hang power cleans and bar facing burpees. 2 classic movements we do in CrossFit. The weight went up on the hang power cleans, the reps went down. Burpees, a classic hard but effective body weight movement. And I was really happy with how that workout went for everyone on Saturday. Neither movement was the limiting factor in particular, maybe at the very end with the hang power cleans, but it was just the combination made it an effective workout. And even today, guys, today's workout, a 15-minute AMRAP, so right in that Goldilocks sweet spot range, and mixed modal training, I have one of each. The row, which is the monostructural, the push press, which is the weightlifting, and the gymnastics movement is the toes to bar. And I think I combined these right. It's 20 and then 15 push press and then 10 toes to bar. If I change that row to, let's say, 30 and 26 calories on the rower, it would have become primarily more a rowing workout. If I had changed the weight on the push press to 135 and 95, it would have definitely become now a push press workout. That would have been the limiting factor. I would have either needed to change that to shoulder to overhead so you could do push jerk or do something else. But the way it was, each movement was hard, and by the end of that movement it was getting tough, but it allowed you to rest for the other 2 movements so you could just keep cycling through. And that is the point of CrossFit, combining these 3 so that the whole is more than the sum of the parts. A very effective workout, a hard workout, but not hard for just for the sake of being hard and effective for what we're trying to get in making you more fit. And so let me, sometimes people get things confused with single modality and monostructural. Monostructural, again, is just one of the modalities. Single modality, so if I do a single modality workout, Grace is 30 clean and jerks for time. That's a single modality workout. We're using a weightlifting movement, and that's the whole workout. How quickly can I do 30 clean and jerks? Sometimes people get that confused with monostructural, mono being one. Mono means, monostructural is the framework of the body is working as one whole unit, and that's why it's called that. A case in point on this too, so that would be a monostructural. Chad, the 1,000 step-ups we did just the other day. And this has been a fun argument I've seen on a few podcasts and even for myself. So when they were doing that at the games, that was with a weight vest that had 45 pounds for the guys, 35 for the girls. So is that workout, was that a gymnastic workout, a weightlifting workout, or a monostructural workout? Okay, so you had weight on your body, so there's an external load, so it was weightlifting. Well, no. Some people would say no, it's a body weight workout. You're doing step-ups, that's a body weight movement, so it's a gymnastic workout. People would say no, this was just a cardio workout. You could keep going, it's just a cardio workout. Right now, I'm in that it is a monostructural, that it's a cardio workout. That's the camp I am in right now. But you can make good arguments for each. And going back to my be your own devil's advocate on this statement, you may have heard a couple phrases thrown around on podcasts. I hear this a lot. There is steel manning an argument and straw manning an argument. If you straw man an argument, you make the opposing case to what you think, but making it really easy to tear apart. When people want to tear apart CrossFit, and I say something is constantly varied, and they say, no, that Dan's saying it's random, you just pick stuff out of a hat, and that's what you go with. That's not what I'm saying, and that's easy to tear apart. That would be straw manning an argument. Saying something that sounds like what I'm saying, but it's overly simplistic and a little misrepresentation of it. Steel manning an argument is making the best case for the other side. So if I want to say I think CrossFit is the best way to train, and there's somebody else that says CrossFit is stupid, I need to make the best case. I need to be able to steel man and make the best case for why CrossFit is stupid and argue that point, and then see if my case for CrossFit being the best way to work out still stands up against that. And so that's kind of talking about those intellectual exercises. I think that was a fun one to do on Chad, because you can have a very good argument for why it fits in all three of the modality categories. And I fall in the one camp right now, but it's a fun discussion to have. All right, guys, so I kind of went on a couple different tangents there with this, but Deload next week. Let me know if you think it should be Nerd Week, Technique Week, Skill Week. Beautiful, effective programming. And if you want to understand that more, listen to Devil's Details 7. And then as a teaser for going forward, you may have noticed, I have noticed, that there's a lot more interval programming happening, both in the programs out there you buy, in the CAP programming, which is the CrossFit affiliate programming. If I didn't do our programming, I could use that. I'm seeing more interval work. Even on the main site, if you go to crossfit.com and the workouts they release, they have started doing interval workout, which is definitely a new development, something that's happened in the last couple of years. Why are they doing that? I think this has to do, going back to, as I said at the beginning, about the life cycle of CrossFit. As CrossFitters as a whole, there's always young CrossFitters coming in, but there's a lot of CrossFitters who have been doing this in their 20s and 30s and 40s. I think there's a natural life cycle and a tendency that some things seem to happen to CrossFitters. And I think interval training is a very effective way to combat this. And obviously, I'm not the only one that thinks this, because I'm seeing it come out in other training programs as well. So I will answer that question later. I'll let that be a teaser. But next week will be about interval programming and how that affects the life cycle of a CrossFitter and avoiding the decline that I think often happens with a CrossFitter. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you next week. Right on.